The following video was recorded during ARCVIC's 2015 OCD and Anxiety Week seminar. To see more segments from this exciting yearly event, or to learn more about ARCVIC's helpline, support group, recovery programs, and community and professional education training, please visit the ARCVIC website at www.arcvic.org.au.
So our next speaker is actually Dr. Louise Cooper. Louise is a counselling psychologist and director of Emotions at Work, and she's going to discuss the stress and anxiety that can build up for families during the VCE, because there's that domino effect in the household, and what we can do as parents to support our VCE students and to stay healthy and productive when preparing for and studying for exams. So please welcome Dr. Louise Cooper, managing a VCE house.
Hello, I'm the short one. Does everyone want to stand up and just reach for the sky or something? Wiggle your bum, just jiggle everything, get a bit of airflow, because we've been sitting around for a while. Okay, you can sit down now. All done, that's it. Sort of feels like I'm left with the dregs here, because so much of what I want to say has been said, which is fantastic because it means we're all on the same page, and maybe there is some universality about this, because we're all coming from slightly different perspectives. Thank you, Michelle, for asking me to do this. I actually came in contact with ARCVIC by doing a placement there when I was studying to be a psychologist. And I have to say that the whole spirit of ARCVIC has had a phenomenal influence on my work. And I'm always happy to do things for ARCVIC. And why that influence was so great is what I learned at ARCVIC is that, you know, I'm standing up here like I know stuff, but essentially when I was at ARCVIC, I learned more about anxiety than I've learned in any other sphere, because of the volunteers and because of people who, like Lisa, who are willing to put their lived experience out there to help others. So I really want to acknowledge that, and yeah, thanks for asking me to be here. So VCE, this is the end. So we've got through the separation anxiety at kinder or childcare, and we've got through primary, and here we are at the end of it. Are there people here that have VCE children? Is anyone in it right at the moment? I'll put my hand up there too. Yeah. So it's a tricky time. Whoops. Here we go. Gee, it's responsive. Okay. It's a really hard time. Now, if you're not doing the VCE, if we weren't doing the VCE, being 17 or 18 years old, 16, 17, 18, is really hard. It's a time when your friendships are really difficult. It's a time when your body has been through all this change and is still changing. It's a time where you suddenly notice that other people have sexual attributes, that you're attracted to people. You start kind of thinking about romance or having romance. It's a time that you have a lot of first experiences and you have nothing to judge it against. So it's really, really stressful. And on top of that, you have to do these exams that you're told one of the most important things in your life. So VCE really, in terms of anxiety provoking, has got everything. It's about judgment, it's about uncertainty, and it's important. So it's no wonder that students who are doing VCE, who may or may not have difficulties with anxiety before, suddenly find themselves at this really difficult point in their life. And as families, you know, we're there, we're all part of it too. So we also know that if you're really, really anxious, that it affects your performance. So there's another anxiety on top of that. I mustn't be anxious, because if I'm anxious, I'm not going to be able to do this properly. It's just this sort of cauldron of potential anxiety. As Tom said, please, if you've got questions, just pop your hand up and I'll come to you. And I'm wondering how it actually got this way. Some of it is because of people like me, and people like Rod, and people like Tom. Because people like us, I don't think any of us have done this, write books about parenting and tell people how to be a parent. And all of a sudden, parenting has KPIs. And one of those KPIs is the marks your child gets at VCE and whether they get the enter score that they need to go on to uni. You know, how did that happen? I don't know about you, but when I was doing my last exams, I don't remember any of this pressure. I don't know, you know, maybe my mum read a book in order to raise me. It would have been Dr. Spock, you know, but there wouldn't have been that many books. Whereas now, in some bookshops, there's a whole section on parenting. And you know what? You've got to get it right. Because if you don't get it right, you've failed as a human being in some way. You've failed as a parent. You know, that's the kind of mentality that we have. And it's become also really competitive. It's really hard as a parent not to buy into that. Right at the beginning, when your child is, you know, is your child walking? God, my child's not walking. All this stuff. We know about it because there's all this information for us. So right through raising a child, you know, there are books called Raising Boys, Raising Girls. I'm not saying they're not great books, but nevertheless, this is a task, this is a job, and you're going to be marked on it. Get rid of that. It doesn't matter in that way. What's happened is that, you know, we hear families, in fact the title of this talk here is the VCE family. It's actually not the family that's doing the VCE. You hear people saying, we're doing the VCE, no we can't do that this year, we're doing the VCE. Well actually, we're not. The child is doing the VCE, the student is doing the VCE, it's their job, it's their task, it's their life stage, and we're just there to support. We don't want it to look like this. I'm sure many of you know this picture. I adore this picture. This is Bev Aisbett's picture of panic and anxiety. Bev Aisbett, who was a cartoonist and works very much in this sphere now, and she drew this cartoon of anxiety. Now this isn't what we want our VCE students to be looking like. Because with all that going on, it's going to be very hard, and it is very hard to do anything. You don't have any attention, you just feel crap basically. And that is not how we want people to be, or our students to be, when they're doing what we are saying is the most important exams of their life. We don't want it to look like that. And this, here you'll see, this is, you know, we want a little bit of anxiety to motivate us. Anxiety motivates us to study. A little bit of, I really want to do this when I leave school, and therefore I need to get certain marks, and therefore I need to perform. I'll do my work. Here I go. Off we go. That's fine. But if there's too much anxiety, the performance, as you can see from this, goes down. So we're wanting our children to right through life to kind of want to achieve in some way, but not add to anxiety. That means that their performance is affected in a negative way. Going back to, if we're not seeing, obviously if we see Bev Aisbett's picture, if we see a young person looking like that picture, we know there's a problem. We know they're having a really tough time. But sometimes that's not what you see. You see other things. As we've heard before, you know, the earlier you can kind of work with this, the easier it is. So what are the things that you notice? What might you notice? Too much work. Over-preparing, too much work. And on the other hand, not enough work. There doesn't seem to be anything happening at all. It's not because that student is not anxious. It may be that they're overwhelmed with the anxiety, so they avoid. And I'm sure you've all come to the concept of avoiding doing things because they create anxiety, so therefore you don't do it. So there's too much work or there's not enough work. Too much sleep, not enough sleep. A low mood, a really excessively high level of activity, too much going on. Changes in behaviour, maybe somatic complaints. When I say somatic, I mean things that are in the body, headaches, backaches, whatever, tummy problems, that sort of stuff. I can't do my work, I've got a headache. These are really common things for people and students to experience when the pressure is on. So they're kind of signs of, okay, this person needs some support. There are things you might notice about yourself. Anxiety is really contagious. So as a parent or as a teacher, indeed, it might be you that's getting this stuff. What's happening to you may be a reflection of actually what's happening right in front of you with the young person. Now, the more you know about what's happening, the more you kind of have insight into your own experience, the better equipped you are to actually be able to work with it. So, you know, knowing what your thoughts are. For a student, this is what might be going on in their head. Very negative stuff, stuff that is self-defeating, or stuff that is just building things up into such great importance that it's difficult to know where to start. So much work, so much importance. Or, I can't do this, so I might as well not bother. Avoid. These are the kinds of thoughts that people would have. The emotions that go with it. Here, when I say, I'm talking about anxious, anxiety, anxious as an emotion, looking to the future. It's different from being scared. Rod touched on this. This idea that there is actually something to be scared of, or it's something that it's future oriented. We're looking in the future. So there's anxiety, there's being scared, there's being irritable, angry, and isolated. I think isolated is a really important thing. Even though someone's friends might be doing all this stuff, often it feels like it's only you that's stressing, that's having the experience that you are, because other people seem to be getting on with it okay. And things that people do, working too much, as I said, eating too much. All this is about too much or too little. That's how it appears. Too much or too little. Giving things up, not seeing your friends, not involving yourself in family life. These are the things that students may do. They're an indication that they're really struggling. So what can we do to help when we see it? I'd like you just for a moment to think of a time that you've been anxious. What wasn't helpful? Yeah? What did people say to you that wasn't helpful? Don't worry, you just got to get on with it. These sorts of, is that helpful? Is it helpful when they tell you their experience and how worried and anxious they've been? What it was like for them? Often not. Because it's about acknowledgement of your experience, of the student's experience. What are the things that are helpful? As Tom said, those questions. Ask a question. And when you ask a question, make sure there's not too much wax in your ear. Listen to the answer. Yeah? listen, ask the question, listen. Or if the student implies that there's a struggle going on, listen to it. Be there to listen. Listen for what they need to say, and ask questions. There's often, pretty much always stress within the family. So what we can do as supporters of a person that's probably going through a pretty stressful time is to try and remove some of that stuff. So whether it's sibling arguments, difficulty between parents, whatever else might be going on in the house, to try and remove that from the student that's already got enough going on. Try and look after ourselves so that we are not contributing. As I said, anxiety is contagious, and what we don't want is our anxiety about our expectations and our concern that our child isn't going to reach the mark and therefore we're going to get a bad mark too. Remove that. Try and keep that away from the person so that they're only dealing with the task at hand pretty much. So they don't have to take on anyone else's stress. Again, this is the stuff Tom's talking about. The stress management as a lifestyle. Diet, exercise, sleep. Often talk about, coffee, caffeine, sugar, those three things. All these things that we can manage, or we would like to be able to manage, and kind of have a handle on generally. Well, and I'm repeating Tom again here, if things aren't going so well, or there's extra stress, that's when these things need to actually be pulled in line a little bit if you can. Pay attention to them. It doesn't have to be perfect, but any extra benefit that you can get in terms of your health from looking at this stuff is going to help. Go for a walk, go for a run with the young person, if they will. They may not want to, but the invitation may be accepted on this one occasion. So here we go with what the family can do. Talk, communication, but real communication in terms of asking questions and listening to the answers. And another thing is, if there is a need to talk to a student, if you're concerned and want to ask those questions, it's always best not to corner them. Don't get them in the car. There's this thing about, it's really good to talk to a young person when you've got them, because they can't get away. Now, if you need to talk to them something really serious and you don't want them, they've got to hear what you're saying, yeah, that might be a good idea. But if you're concerned and you want them to open up and they're feeling trapped, they're not going to like it at all. They're likely to kind of go in on themselves. So it's in passing. It might be in their room, so they're in their own space, but somewhere where they can actually get away from you rather than have this sense of feeling trapped by you. It's kind of putting extra pressure on them. And asking directly how they're going. How's it all going? Very simple. There's no subtext. There's nothing specific that they might respond to. How's it going? You're not putting the answers in their mouths. You're not asking about, that the question isn't based on, I don't think that you're working hard enough. It's very open. How are things going? And if a problem is identified by the young person, it's really important to work with them. Not do it for them, not give them all the answers, but work with them. And this goes back to what Rod was saying, the difference between a young child and an adolescent. It's important to be collaborative with them. Ask what they've tried. Ask what else they could do. Ask if there's anything that you can do to help them. if they identify the problem, it's your opportunity to ask, is there anything that I can do? It's not judgmental, it's just being there. It's the same as listening, it's just being there for them. And if they don't want to talk to you, don't go off in a huff. It doesn't matter. It's okay they don't want to talk to you. If you get upset because they don't want to talk to you, you've just given them something else to get upset about, that they've made you feel upset. So it's like, okay, they don't want to talk. That's okay. If they're a bit short with you, okay, they obviously don't want to talk at the moment. Hear what they're saying. And then back to, this is some of the stuff that gets taught in schools now, quite a lot, how to manage your time. And as a parent, you can assist them in doing this. Not prescribe it, but if you see it, and if they bring this to the table, know about it. Know that if they are timetabling their time, that they actually need to put some pleasure in there. They need to be realistic about it. They need to be setting goals that they can achieve, but they also need to be having some downtime. They need to be having fun. I've heard parents complaining about the fact that Year 12s are involved in big drama productions in their school when they're supposed to be doing their VCE, yeah? But those kids, that is their downtime. They are involved, they're taken away from this stressful thing called their study into another world, and it allows them to get some downtime. I've also heard horrific arguments in a family where the child played tennis. She was quite a good tennis player, and the father played tennis with her, was involved in tennis as well. And the mother's view was that while VCE was going on, she shouldn't be playing tennis. The father's view, he was really worried that while she was doing VCE, suddenly her tennis skills were going to go out the window. And the girl didn't know what to say. She just wanted to get away from her, I won't use the word, I was just about to pop out of my mouth. She just wanted to get away from her parents because they were having this argument over her, you know, without actually asking what she thought about it. So getting that balance in terms of making sure that there's some good stuff happening, yeah, for the young person. Otherwise, life's just no fun. There's got to be fun. Thank you, Tom. And that's all I'm going to say. It's about balance. Not too much, not too little. Somewhere in the middle. That's okay. And self-care. And if there is a student that really wants to do something and is directed to it, or if there's a student that doesn't care very much at all, they don't know what they're going to do, both are going to benefit from that. Both are going to benefit from being an environment that isn't putting any extra pressure on them and allowing them to do what they're supposed to be doing at this time of their lives. If they want to, and if that's their priority. Because if they're not interested, and they're interested in something else, there's not an awful lot that you can do about that, except for encourage the thing that they really are into and allow them to just kind of get through what is a really difficult time of their lives. Thanks very much.
Is there any questions for Louise?
I'm Claire. It's everything that I've heard Louise, Tom and Rod say in the last few minutes and said beautifully makes so much sense, is so obviously simple and workable, and accepting the fact that I, like probably everybody else here who is a parent, wants to be a good, effective, loving parent. Why do we have to be reminded so often? Why do I forget and do to my children what my dad did to me so often?
Yeah, we all want to be loving parents. That's what we want. It's what we feel. I guess our anxiety gets in the way. I guess because I'm standing here talking about it, as I said at the beginning, there is this pressure to perform for everybody, to be the best, perfect if you can be. There's the pressure. But there is also our anxiety. Actually, I'm going to talk a bit about this afternoon. The underlying stuff that's driving that, which is different for all of us. So when you talk about, I really resonated with the statement that you made, the comment that you made about, you know, why am I doing to my kids what my parents did to me, when actually that's the last thing in the world that I want to do. Often it's our anxiety that gets in the way. Now, the source of that anxiety is different for all of us. There are common factors, but nevertheless, it's our own personal experience that we bring to the table. It's our own personal experience. And whatever that is, and it is always complex, that is what influences how we are in any given situation. We bring that to the situation, and this is no different. So the anxiety that's sitting there, that we that drives us to do things in certain ways, is also driven by different emotional content that sits very deeply within us. And you know, this is a lifetime of discovery of what actually it is that drives us and why we do things the way we do them. We don't have all the answers, but I guess what I'm saying is it's very much an individual thing, and the answers are very individual, fascinating and complex. Yeah. So, but if you can work with the anxiety, which is the bit that comes out, if you can manage that, you're in a much better position to be able to look at the stuff that's underneath it. As I said, I'm going to talk more about that this afternoon.